Now we're going to solve and graph our inequalities, and I want to remind you of a little saying that we learned back in chapter 2, LAGO, LAGO, and that stands for less than is and or between, greater than is an or opposite. So looking back at our notation, we can see that this is an or. We actually had to physically write the word or. When it's an and, the whole thing can be written as one because it's between 2 points. So we're going to keep that in mind as we continue. Looking at problem number 11, I see that I have a less than symbol. So less than is going to indicate an and. So that means that it's going to be similar to B above, where the line is going to go in between the 2 points. Let's go ahead and walk through our steps for solving. So the first thing is to change our inequality into an equation and solve the equation. So x squared minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0 is our first step. Now we want to solve this. Well, I notice that I can solve this by factoring. This is really easy to factor. X is in the front, a plus 1 and a minus 4. Now I can use my zero product property and say that x plus 1 is equal to 0 or x minus 4 is equal to 0. And solving these two little inequalities, I get x is equal to negative 1 or x is equal to 4. These become the critical points on my graph. So I'm going to plot negative 1 here, stick 0 there, and 4 here. And so I want to go ahead and put some dots here. And because I have a less than symbol, that does not get closed up. I don't fill in those dots. If it had been a less than or equal to, the dots would have been filled. I know that I have an and, so and is in between. That means that x is somewhere in between here. And I can write my final inequality as one inequality. Negative 1 less than x less than 4. Let's go ahead and label these steps so that we can remember what we did. So we changed to an equation, and then we factored, and then we solved. Then we draw our graph, and finally we write our inequality. And so this is our final answer written as a single inequality in this case. I'd like you to try number 12 and then come back here to see how you did. We have x squared plus 4x minus 32 is greater than 0, so that is an or. This is written in standard form, so we're ready to go ahead and change it to an equation with an equal sign instead of the greater than symbol. This one can be factored with 8 times negative 4 equaling 32, and 8 minus 4 equaling a positive 4 here. Remember that then you set each piece equal to 0 using the zero product property and solve the little algebra equation. So x plus 8 equals 0. When you subtract 8 from both sides, you get negative 8. X minus 4 equals 0. When you add 4 to both sides, you get positive 4. Those are our critical points that we will plot on a number line, negative 8 and 4. Draw your dot, and it needs to be an open dot because we have a greater than symbol, not a greater than or equal to. And again, we are going in opposite directions because of the or that we determined. It's a great or symbol. Finally, interpreting our number line to get our final inequality, we have x is less than negative 8 or x is greater than 4. We have one last problem to finish up this lesson, and for this one I notice a couple of things. One, I have a constant on the right and something that is an x squared on the left. I'm missing that middle b times x term. This leads me to being able to use square roots to solve instead of factoring, and that will be the quickest way to do this one. I do see that this is a greater than, so a greater than is an or. Let's keep that in mind as we work towards our final answer. The first thing I want to do is simplify the left side as much as I can, so I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 9 and get that x squared is greater than 4. Then I do the same step of changing this to an equality to identify my critical points. And because I have a squared term on the left and a constant on the right, I can use square roots to solve. Don't forget your plus and minus. Remembering that the squared and square root cancel, I'm left with x on the left, and I have a plus or minus square root of 4 on the right, but I know that the square root of 4 is 2, so it's a plus or minus 2. And those are going to be my critical points. I can plot them on a graph. -2, 0 would be in between, and a 2. I would go ahead and put dots at those critical points. Notice that we have a greater than symbol, so the dots stay open. If I had had a or equal to part here, then I would close up the dots. But because I don't have that, it's open dots. I have an or because it was a great or. Remember from up here that a greater than goes opposite directions. It's an or and it goes opposite. So that means that my x is either here or here, and I can write my final inequality. I know it's going to be in 2 pieces because I have 2 pieces on my graph. So x is less than -2 or x is greater than 2, and that's my final answer.